Hey everybody, day 10 of the weight loss challenge, and today I've got a really good one for you. So today we're going to go over a very important topic, and it's one that seems to be really important to a lot of people, and that is fasting. So I'm going to start off by saying that I'm a fan of fasting. I think that it works really well. I think it's really simple, and I think most people are able to follow it without a lot of complexity, so that's some of the reasons I really like it. Like a lot of ways that you can diet, there are naysayers and people that disagree with it, and I have to say I do understand alternate viewpoints about fasting, and so I want to go over the naysayers real quick, and then I'm going to go over why I like it, and then we're going to go into some ways that you can affect it and how you can actually implement it into your weight loss program. So first of all, people don't like fasting, or a lot of nutritionists don't like fasting, because there's a decent amount of evidence to support that it is it's a muscle wasting way of dieting. So what that means basically is that as you diet, you lose a certain amount of muscle mass as you diet, and fasting can make that a little bit worse. The reason you don't want to lose muscle, as we've talked about in some other videos, is that you want to keep your muscle mass up, because that keeps your daily caloric need up. So what happens if you diet too hard, you start to lose your muscle, you're losing fat and you're losing muscle, and they're going down, so your calorie needs start to decelerate, and you keep trying to diet, and it slows down because your muscle mass, which is the part that needs to be fed with food, starts to fall off. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a simplistic way of putting it, but in a short story on that is that you want to keep your muscle mass up, because that keeps your caloric intake up as you're trying to burn some fat. So if you go too hard on a fast, you can really start to metabolize your muscle, and that's a negative. So there are people that will promote fasts that go for days on end or for long periods of time. I'm not for that. I think that's probably a counterproductive way of fasting, but I'm going to get into that more and how to do it in just a few minutes, or hopefully just right away. So to kind of finish the story about the naysayers, just, keep in mind that you can go a little crazy on fasting, and it can end up hurting you because you lose your muscle mass. And I see a lot of people well-meaning people, who think that they're doing great in their diet because they're eating vegetables and fruits all the time, but they're really not doing enough in terms of their protein intake, which is by far the most important of your macronutrients to keep elevated while you're dieting. And I know people are trying to do their best by keeping their calories down, and you will lose weight by keeping your calories down, but you'll make it easier on yourself if you keep your protein level up. So that's an important part of fasting. So you've got to keep your protein level up. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about the downside. To put a period on the downside, I'm going to just add this, and that is, if you're going to use fasting as a technique for dieting, which I like it, you just, in my opinion and my experience, you're best not to go crazy with the length of time that you fast, okay? So that's where I'm going to leave that. So on the upside, here's the thing that I like about fasting. So if you have no food in your stomach, your body is forced to use reserves, which are fats, in your body as fuel. So basically, when you are dieting, or when you're eating, your body runs on glucose, basically. That is the petrol of your body, basically. It's the gasoline of your body is glucose. So your body can metabolize various things, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and through processes in your body, it can convert all those to glucose in one way or another, using these things that are a little bit too boring to go into. But your body can metabolize those things and turn them into glucose to give you energy to run your life. So the thing is, if you have no fuel in your stomach, if you have no carbohydrate, fat, or protein in your body naturally turns to its reserve supply, which is your fat stores. So then it converts those fat stores into glucose and into energy, basically, so that you can continue to run your life. So it's very intuitive when you think about it. It's very basic. We have fat for the purpose of the same thing as like a squirrel putting nuts away for the winter time. It's the same concept, basically, except it's on our bodies. And that is that, we store this fat for use later, but because of the types of lives that we live, a lot of times we end up storing too much fat, and then we get overweight. So it's very intuitive when you think about it, to give your body basically a chance to use some of these fat stores as fuel. So if you're adding food into your stomach all the time, even if you're at a low calorie, you will burn some fat, but to really get the fat thing turned on, it's nice to go for periods of time, not crazy periods of time, but periods of time without eating. So there are a lot of theories about this. Some people will diet for days on end and drink water and what have you. Some people will diet for or fast for short periods of time. It's a real common number to say 16 hours fasting, 8 hours eating. And so I'm going to say something about that and give you an opinion. So I don't like to base what I do and how I live on things like that. So let's just say that hunger is a much better tool to use for that purpose than a clock. So just for instance, like let's just say that, one night you ate your last meal at 8 p.m. and it was a big meal. Well, a big meal is going to take longer to digest than if you had had an apple, let's say, at 8 p.m. or a piece of celery at 8 p.m. and then you wait until 16 hours goes by. So if you'd only had a piece of celery, you'd be starving basically by the time that 16 hours had passed. But if you'd had a big bowl of pasta and a piece of cake and all that stuff at the same time the night before and 16 hours went by, you might not be as hungry. So rather than focus on some clock, I think it's much better to use the natural mechanism. Again, I'm a big believer in just using your brain when it comes to dieting, and that is, are you hungry? If you're hungry, that is your body's mechanism, just like thirst is the mechanism to tell you to drink. Hunger is the mechanism that tells you, hey, I don't have any food in my stomach, I need some food. If you ignore that impulse, then your body's like screaming at you, but it's like, dang, this guy's not listening or this girl's not listening, and I'm just gonna have to tap into some of these fat stores until I get some food. So that's kind of the idea that I like to work off of, is hunger. And so I think it's a much more reliable system than working off of a clock, because I think it'll also encourage people to eat a lot the night before, because I'm going to eat a lot and then I'm going to wait for the 16 hours to go by and then I'm going to eat again. So I'm going to eat a ton of food right now. If you just base it on hunger, you don't have to get all stressed about it and overeat, the night before and things like that are counterproductive. So in my opinion, and based on my experience again, it's much simpler just to use hunger. So, if you can get yourself hungry and then extend that hunger period for a while, like 3 or 4 hours, not crazy amounts of time. If you start going crazy, like 8 hours of hunger, you're definitely going to start tapping into that muscle bank that you don't want to tap into. You want to only use those fat stores. So you kind of have to tease the fat off with little periods of hunger that don't go that crazy long time. So do it like this. This is the best way to do it, and I'm about to sell you on something a little bit too, so I'm going to prep you for that. But the way that I've done it in the past and the way that I've learned from some really top-line bodybuilders is to get hungry. Like let's say you ate something about 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever it was last night, and then this morning you wake up and you're a little bit hungry, but you're not dying. So what you do is you drink some hot liquid. So a lot of people will drink coffee or tea or something like that. So drink your coffee. That'll extend your period of not eating for an hour or two, let's say. Then the munchies are going to start coming back. Maybe drink a little bit more coffee to kind of keep the edge off. So by doing this, you kind of extend your hunger window by having hot liquids in your stomach. It's really effective, and it takes the edge off of the hunger by having just a little something in your stomach that's no calories or very low calories. And that is a way to extend this hunger window without the pain. So I've always relied on coffee for this purpose, but I pitched to you guys a few times that I really like this Revital U coffee for that purpose, and I've got a link for that on this video, and I can send you a free sample, and it's extremely low pressure. If you don't like it, no problem. It's a free sample. No one's going to bug you. I'm not going to keep saying, hey, why don't you buy this stuff? It's not like that. If you don't like it, no problem. Some people don't like it, but most people that get it do like it, and it's really nice because coffee works really well, but Revital U has a appetite suppressant in it that, to me, it really takes the edge off. So to me, it's like, even though I can tell I don't have food in my stomach, I don't desire food in the same way. So if you like it and you want to try it, I can send you some. Like I said, there's a link for that below in the video here. Links for other things that I like too that have no commercial benefit to me, by the way. Some Amazon products and so on that I really recommend. So if you want to try some Revital U for this purpose, I would recommend it because to me, it just makes that fasting period a little bit longer. So one other thing I'd like to add, and that is that there's a lot of BS out there regarding fasting and breaking fasts, and people getting like their head all gummed up with crazy ideas about a lot of things, but fasting is one of them. So not long ago, I got into a discussion with someone on Facebook who was arguing with me that because that someone might put a little bit of creamer in their coffee, that they were breaking their fast. So the total caloric content of this creamer was about 10 calories. So just use your brain. So you've got an extra 10 calories. You take your coffee and it's got some creamer in it. You added 10 calories into your stomach, and sure, your body's going to use those calories as energy. But I did a calculation in terms of the number of seconds or minutes that there are in a day, and it's like 1,400 and some odd minutes per day. So if you have 10 calories, it's the equivalent of about 1 minute or 2 minutes worth of energy that you're going to burn up. So if you still have no food in your stomach and you burn up that creamer, it takes 2 minutes. What's your body going to rely on after that? So there's no food in there. There's no calories to burn. There's nothing to utilize as energy. So boom, right back. Your body's going to have to go back into utilizing your fat stores as its source of energy. So use your mind. I mean, there's just so many things I see out there that people just like don't use their common sense, basically. But the idea that a creamer is going to somehow mess up your fasting period in any significant way is just kind of dumb. It's just stupid. I mean, there's a lot of stupid stuff out there, and I'm gonna just have to put it out there that's just a stupid concept. So it's just counterintuitive. You can do the numbers yourself and just use your mind and deduce on your own that 10 calories is not going to break any fast or put you in any kind of state where you're gonna have extra fuel that's gonna magically appear and give you energy basically to burn. So put that kind of stuff out of your mind. So anyway, so this is the bottom line on fasting. I really like it. Don't go crazy with it. Do it for a period of time. And another thing, I don't do it every day, but there's some reasons for that I just do because I think sometimes your body can get into a set rhythm if it knows it's going to get fed, and it'll start to adapt to that. So maybe 3 days out of 4 I might fast, or 2 days out of 3, something like that, and then I'll do my normal breakfast in the morning instead of adding a fast in the morning. But it is very effective. Fasting is very effective. It doesn't take a lot of planning, so you don't have to know a tremendous amount about food. It's real simple because of that. You can use your hunger as a mechanism to make it happen and just use your intuition. And as long as you're not going nuts with your calories the rest of the day, overeating, it's going to work. So I really like fasting. I hope that you guys will consider employing it as the primary strategy for losing weight. That, and of course, caloric deficit is like the most important thing, but this coupled with the caloric deficit is like a way to kind of accelerate that process, and I think you really like it. So thanks for sticking with this challenge. I'm having a good time doing it for you guys. My mind is like exploding with ideas for videos, and I'm only doing one a day, so I hope that I can give you enough to keep you entertained the whole time. So I think today is an important one. I hope you really enjoyed it. Please follow me on these social media links that are below, and thanks so much for being a part of this challenge and for coming along as far as you have. All right, take care.